All right, let's dive into the mind of a true giant of history, Aristotle. We're not just talking about some dusty old philosopher. Nope, we're talking about one of the first political scientists, a guy who tried to figure out how to design a government that could actually work in the real world.
It's a huge question, right? Probably one of the biggest questions we've ever tried to answer. People have been debating it, fighting over it, and dreaming about it for thousands of years. And way back in ancient Greece, this debate was front and center, led by two of the most brilliant minds ever.
So, on one side, you've got Plato. He was the idealist, the dreamer. He imagined this perfect utopia run by super-wise philosopher kings. And then you have his star student, Aristotle, who is the ultimate realist. Instead of just dreaming about a perfect world, Aristotle decided to get his hands dirty. He looked at the governments that already existed to figure out what actually, works.
And to really get Aristotle, you've got to understand where he came from. He spent 20 years, think about that, 20 years at Plato's academy. He soaked up all of Plato's idealist philosophy, and that experience really became the launchpad for his own very different, very practical take on politics. He even went on to tutor none other than Alexander the Great before starting his own famous school, the Lyceum.
Okay, so before you can even begin to design a government, you have to ask a really basic question. What's the point? What is it all for? And right here, on this fundamental question, Plato and Aristotle had completely different ideas.
For Aristotle, the state, or the polis as they called it, wasn't some strange artificial thing. He saw it as completely natural. He famously said we are, by our very nature, political animals. The state is just the ultimate form of community, the place where we can truly reach our fullest potential.
So the whole point of the state for Aristotle was to help people achieve what he called the good life. And that doesn't just mean staying safe or having enough to eat. It means creating a society where people can truly flourish, where they can use their reason and become virtuous, genuinely happy human beings.
Now this is where things get really interesting, especially when it comes to property. Plato had this radical idea of communism for his ruling class. No private property, no traditional families, all to keep them unified and uncorrupted. Aristotle thought this was a terrible idea. He said the problem wasn't property, the problem was, and I quote, the evils of human nature. He actually saw private property as a vital tool for achieving the good life because, well, it gives you the free time you need to get involved in politics and philosophy.
All right, so that leads us to the next massive question. If you're building a state, who gets to be in charge? Should it be one single super smart leader or a set of laws that no one can break?
Plato's answer was simple, the philosopher king. This is a ruler so incredibly wise and just that their word is the law. I mean, it's a pretty tempting idea, right? A kind of benevolent dictator who always knows the right thing to do.
But Aristotle, he was very skeptical. He argued that no single person, no matter how brilliant, should ever be above the law. For him, the rule of law was always better than the rule of any one person. Why? Because laws are impartial. They're consistent. They don't have bad moods or play favorites. They protect everyone from the personal whims of a ruler.
And this table right here just perfectly shows his scientific approach. Aristotle basically broke down all governments based on two simple questions. Who's in charge, and are they ruling for the good of everyone or just for themselves? So, if one person rules for the common good, that's a monarchy. But if they rule for their own selfish gain, that government gets twisted into a tyranny. The same pattern applies to rule by a few. A good aristocracy can rot into a selfish oligarchy, and even rule by the many.
So, all of this careful analysis leads us to Aristotle's big idea. He wasn't looking for a fantasy island utopia. He was looking for the best practicable government, a system that could actually be built and survive in the real world.
And he called this special blend the polity. You can think of it as a mixed government. It cleverly takes some principles from oligarchy, which is ruled by the wealthy, and mixes them with principles from democracy, ruled by the poor. By balancing these two, you create a stable, moderate state. This idea of a mixed government was hugely influential, even inspiring some of the people who framed the U.S. Constitution centuries later.
So what's the secret ingredient to making this polity work? Well, just look at this chart. For Aristotle, the absolute key to a stable society was a large, strong middle class. His thinking was that the rich are arrogant and don't like to be told what to do, while the very poor can be desperate and unruly. The middle class, though, they're the sweet spot in between. They are the glue that holds the whole thing together, preventing the rich and the poor from tearing each other apart.
So when you put all these pieces together, it's pretty easy to see why Aristotle's ideas have stuck around for so long and had such a massive impact.
I mean, his concepts are literally the bedrock of Western political thought. The idea that a government should be limited by a constitution? That's Aristotle. The belief that the rule of law is supreme over any one person? That's him too. The very notion of studying politics like a science, and the idea that the state has a responsibility to help make good citizens, it all traces back to him.
But, and this is a really important but, we have to look at the whole picture. Aristotle's legacy is also very complicated, especially because of views that are, frankly, horrifying to us today. He actually defended slavery, calling it a natural institution. He believes some people were just naturally born to be slaves. It's a stark reminder that even the greatest minds are still products of their own time.
And that kind of brings us to our final thought here. Aristotle's whole project was about looking at the world with clear eyes, to analyze politics as it is, not how we wish it would be. So here's the question for you. If he were here today, applying that same tough, realistic analysis to our governments and our societies, what do you think he would see?